November is Native American Heritage Month here in Wisconsin. The Oneida Nation's journey is one of resilience, culture, and community.
And one milestone along that journey came with the start of bingo games, a move that helped fund key tribal programs and laid the groundwork for future growth. Victoria Frazier shows us how that step became part of a much larger story.
I-25. Bingo is kind of like our heart and soul of where gaming grew for Oneida.
Luis Cornelius has worked for Oneida Casino for over 30 years and says the tribe and casino continues to grow. Originally from New York, the Oneida Nation tribe came to Wisconsin in the 1820s to establish new homelands. New York purchased their land despite a treaty that would prohibit the sale without approval from the federal government.
We have grown substantially since I've been a child. The growth and development within the Oneida Nation is outstanding.
In September of 1976, two members of Oneida Nation organized the first fundraiser bingo game.
At that time we were struggling as a nation, Oneida Nation, in paying our bills, like the electric bill, the heating bill, and whatever bills we had coming into our tribe. And at that time, they came up with the idea of starting bingo, our bingo operation.
This funding would also go towards supporting tribal programs.
We really needed to focus to make sure that our youth had a place to go to have recreation, whether it be through education, tutoring, basketball, volleyball, and all those kind of activities.
But Oneida's bingo games were met with political and legal challenges over state bingo laws. In 1981, a federal judge in Wisconsin ruled state bingo laws do not apply on tribal lands. Over the years, Oneida Nation grew into casino gaming, adding slot machines to their Irene Moore Activity Center before the main casino opened in December of 1993.
In 1991, we negotiated a compact with the state of Wisconsin, and we expanded into casino-style games. And just recently, we consolidated the hotel and Oneida Casino.
From those early bingo nights to a thriving casino industry, Oneida Nation's success has only continued to grow.
We've had substantial growth within our community, but we're always looking at ways to diversify our economy, and it has only grown substantially from where we were at, making $85 from the first session to millions of dollars today.
Luis says the Oneida Nation continues to honor its roots while building a stronger future through gaming and community investment. Reporting in Green Bay, Victoria Frazier, Action 2 News.